Hey bitches, it's a guy, a car, and a podcast.
It's a guy, a car, and a podcast.
It's a guy, a car, and a podcast.
It's a guy, car, and a podcast.
Buckle up.
Buckle the fuck up.
Buckle up.
Better fucking buckle up.
And
As you do.
and so I'm sitting there and I'm smoking with Ian under his tree, and I have my cell phone out, and Phil Mickelson's walking down the fairway, and I'm like, I have to pull up my phone, I don't care who sees this, and I'm filming him, I'm like, Phil, ASU, and he waves at us, and one guy looks over, and he's not one bit concerned about the marijuana. He's like, how the hell did you get your cell phone in here? It was really fun.
Oh, Justin Miller.
How you been, man?
Can't even, dude. It's been a very interesting phase of my life. I think the last time that I saw you, it had to have been at that Club Red show. Have I seen you since? Was the Tempe Tavern show after that?
I think it was after that.
Okay.
Yeah,
then I saw you there.
I saw you then.
But even that was before I moved to Provo and Utah and all this stuff. So
dude.
yeah, it's been a girl.
Girl?
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. I moved back for a girl.
For another girl.
And none of that worked out, so no more moving for girls. At least as of right now.
For now.
Who knows how life's
Never say
gonna turn
never.
out. Your life, I feel like, has changed way more significantly than mine has.
It has changed a lot, dude. I got married.
Yeah.
And it was to an elementary school sweetheart. Which is
Well,
really cool.
I don't know anything about the backstory.
So she and I met in the 5th grade.
Wow.
But I actually dated her best friend at the time, and so I was there for her first kiss with somebody else. You know what I mean? I watched her have her first kiss with somebody else. And then after the 6th grade, going into the 7th grade, she ended up moving away, and then later went on to England. Actually, she lived in south of London for 10 years.
Wow.
Got her Harry Potter accent. And when
meaning a fake at
right. No, it was so funny listening to her because when she found us again when Facebook started popping off 2008, 7 or 8. She started finding all of her old friends from elementary school, and one of them who we went to school with was my roommate.
Oh wow!
And she actually found him first, Chuck. And Chuck's like, dude, Brittany Finley hit me up. She wants to call you. I'm like, okay. And so she did, and we started a solid friendship where we would talk for hours at a time on the phone, comment on each other's social media all the time. She actually ended up getting married to a guy in the military and traveled all over the world. So she went to Georgia in the United States, to Germany, to Washington State, to Hawaii.
Oh wow!
Her son, who I'm raising now, my stepson, he was actually born in Germany.
Oh wow!
So he's got dual citizenship. So. It wasn't even on a base, so he did it. They did it in a real German hospital, and he's got full citizenship over there too.
Oh dang!
But when they went to Hawaii, they ended up getting a divorce.
Oh.
And she decided...
Because, nothing says divorce like paradise.
Right, exactly. They're there, and they're like, this isn't doing it. So they ended up getting a divorce, and she was deciding whether she wanted to move back to England, which was also her home, or whether she wanted to take a chance and come back to Arizona and try to raise her kids in the same kind of way and environment that she grew up.
Yeah.
And that ended up being her decision. So, fast forward I don't know, maybe a year, and I didn't even know she had moved back to Arizona. I was in a relationship of my own, and she and I broke up, and I had started talking to Brittany, and she goes, you know I'm in Arizona. And I was like, no, you're all over the world. Why the hell are you in Sholo, you know? Every time I talk to you, you're in a different place. And she ended up coming up for Memorial Day weekend for a barbecue, and first night, it was our first kiss, you know, but I hadn't seen her since the 6th grade. And I asked her to marry me, I think 6 weeks later, actually.
Wow.
It was that quick. And I was engaged only once before, and I was young and in college. And that went south the moment the engagement happened. So I was never quick to try to marry anybody. Like, I was kind of content to not get married, to be honest.
Wow.
But once I met Brittany, and you finally, because when you go through a lot of really bad relationships, you know what to look for, and you appreciate the little things.
Yeah.
And it was immediate with Brittany that she understood me. She knew I was temperamental, and she was okay with it, and gave me my space, and she just did everything the right way, the way I needed it done.
Yeah.
Like, I felt understood, you know? Yeah. And I was completely in love with her. I had always had a crush on her. And so what I did was my friend's mom still worked at the elementary school where we grew up. And it was the summer. It was like July 1st, I think it was. And so I called Veronica up and I asked her, like, could you give us like a private tour of the school so we could go back to our old haunts, see the old classrooms and stuff? And I tell her, like, I want to ask her to marry me. And so Veronica sets this whole thing up, right, where she gets another friend of hers to do the tour. And while we're touring, she goes out and she sets right by the exit door. She sets up a bench with, you know, roses on it and all this stuff. And so we're reminiscing about the first time we met in our old classroom. We redid a classroom photo in the gym that we had from school. And then we took her outside and she saw these roses and she's like, who left the roses out here? and that's when I popped the question right there, which is great. It was right where we met, you know, the first time. So.
Wow.
And then we got married in June of this year, so we were engaged for 2 years.
Wow.
But we wanted to make sure we did it right. We did it up in Sholo, where we had grown up on a private golf course, and had about 75 people. It was gorgeous, man. It was good time.
You're from Sholo?
Yeah, well, just north of there, Concho.
Wow.
I grew up on an 80-acre ranch. We didn't have any indoor plumbing or electricity for most of my young childhood growing up. And what's so cool is when I tell that to like an old girlfriend, they'll always be like, ooh, you know. I tell that to Brittany, and she's like, yeah, we didn't have it either, because she grew up in the same place. We have the same horror stories of childhood. And we all know that we're never going back to that.
Why is it bizarre to me that the way that I understand your life as it is now is so far from that?
Really?
Like,
yeah.
I get the impression like you live a relatively affluent life. Like I don't know, you travel, you're engaged in seemingly like high society kind of stuff, whereas you came from no plumbing.
Yeah, I had no plumbing, homie, at all. And you're right, and I think I take pleasure in life. I always said that, you know, there's no reason to make money if you don't spend it. Now, obviously, you don't have to get stupid, but I've never been one to not go out and have a good time or go do something awesome or you know, something like that. So I think that all comes from the fact that I knew where I came from, you know, and I always want to treat myself.
Yeah. So, what age were you when you left Sholo?
Well, I lived there through graduation. When I graduated high school, I finally left and came down here and started going to MCC.
Which means, as I understand it, you would have discovered music in Sholo.
Yes.
Accurate?
Yeah. Oh, in the 7th grade, I discovered music. So this is a really funny story.
Okay.
We had a janitor, and his name was Jim Fromberg. And Jim would sit in his janitor's office by like the side stage in the auditorium. And when he wasn't working, he was jamming on a guitar, and he was freaking amazing. And he started telling us stories about him being in like Whitesnake, not Whitesnake, but the Great White back in the day for a while, and some other bands. And he realized he didn't want to live that life anymore, and decided to move away and took his family to like the most remote place in the world, which is Concho, to be a janitor. And as we hit going into the 7th grade, my buddy started asking him if he could have lessons with him. And so all of a sudden, Ian wasn't hanging out with us at recess anymore. He was hanging out with Jim, learning guitar. And more of us wanted to do that same thing. So before he knew it, like he had 2 guitars, and he would let one rotate. We could take it home, and we would all be in there and just take lessons with him, like every recess for weeks, you know. And then my mom started actually paying him for private lessons when she bought me a guitar, and I would go to his house. And the funniest thing is he taught me Smoke on the Water, right? It was like the first one to play, but he wanted me to be able to play it and sing at the same time. Because he had always said that he never did that. Nobody ever forced him to sing, and he was always just a lead guitarist. And now that he wants to sing, like he's not any good at it. And so he goes, if you want to be all around, you're going to sing when you play. And what he did was, we started playing Smoke on the Water, and he had 2 young girls. One was in my grade, or one was a grade below us, and one was 2 grades above us, right? So sandwich made.
Yeah.
And a wife, and he would sing the song and make me play and sing along so that I was louder than him.
Oh, wow.
So I had to sing above him and play, and if he got louder, I had to get even louder. And it was so embarrassing because the girls are in the other room laughing. They can hear us just smack on the water, you know, kind of stuff. And so that's how I learned to play and sing, and I never stopped. Like, there's never a time I pick up a guitar and start playing, and I'm not singing. You know what I mean? Which led to me being a frontman for all the years I was doing that.
Yeah, for sure. So, at what point did your love affair with Tom DeLonge begin?
About the same time.
Really?
Oh, about the same time.
Just right out the gate, you're like, punk rock, this is for me.
Because once I started picking up the guitar, I always loved Green Day, you know, and I was always kind of into that genre of music.
Yeah.
But I didn't know Blink-182, and we didn't have real electricity or TV, so I didn't watch MTV. But I started in about the 7th grade. I had my own electric guitar by that point. It was an $80 Hondo Japanese guitar that I bought from the local music store. And cherry red, beautiful guitar. I still own it, actually. And so I was learning to play that, and I was trying to play like Green Day songs and stuff, and my buddy had me come over to his house, and TRL was always on. And the one thing we made fun of was Christina Aguilera and Backstreet Boys and NSYNC all the time. And the beauty of the All the Small Things video was that it literally made fun of all those musicians in their videos, but they were always ahead of them in the charts, right? Because it was the top 10 music videos. So Blink always landed at like 6 or 7, right? And you would see the All the Small Things video. Yeah. And then sure enough, 5, 4, 3, 2, they're all Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears, and we would laugh the entire hour once we saw that. And then I started being like, I want to learn to play this song. And I couldn't read chords. I still can't read music. I can read tabs. But I always could pick it out by ear. I could always see it. And especially earlier Blink, like the End of the State album was really, really simple to play, you know? And so I could pick it up real quick, sing it, and for whatever reason, as I grew up and got older and my voice started to mature, it always kind of sounded DeLonge-ish, I would say, which helped.
I mean, from the earliest days, could you distinguish a Tom song from a Mark song? Could you feel the difference?
Immediately, yeah, you know the difference. Now, Mark is absolutely amazing, but I'm completely turned off by the new Blink. I can't do anything without Tom, you know? I won't fucking listen to it.
It's bad in a lot of ways. Like California, I made effort with.
Yeah.
So some of those songs, Kings of the Weekend and Los Angeles, I think are pretty good, but it's just pop now. Like it's not even punk anymore. What are you guys doing?
And that's what, there was a poll there towards the end when Tom was still in the band, where Mark was saying with the new album, we need to go back to like Enema roots. And Tom was like, no. and when they ended up, or when I guess they kicked Tom out of the band, Tom came out, I don't know if you know, with his own album. It's called Tom DeLonge, like demos and things or something like that.
This is pre-Angels and Airwaves?
He had already been doing Angels.
Or pre like Boxcar Racer and like all the...
After all that. So this is...
after all that,
yeah,
okay.
This is like 2014, 2015, something like that. When the second hiatus, when they kicked Tom out and they brought in Skiba to do these last
I don't think that I knew that there was a... So, did Neighborhoods happen after a hiatus?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So that was their comeback when Tom joined the band.
Got it. Okay.
So they had actually had a breakup initially, where they said we're on an indefinite hiatus that ended up lasting like 7 years, and that's when Tom really set off with Angels and Airwaves.
Wow.
Then they kind of rekindled their friendship, and Tom's like, well, let's do this again.
Okay.
And they all decided to put out an album, which is Neighborhoods, and they toured for 2 years. Once on Greatest Hits and once on their new album. And then they did another like Christmas demo, which is just an amazing like 5-song. It's called Dogs Eating Dogs. It's a great little series of songs. The last ones they put out with Tom, and they were planning to go back in and do another studio release. And what ended up happening was Tom was getting involved not with Angels and Airwaves, but with all of his alien government stuff that's been going on.
The To the Sky, or
to the Stars.
To the Stars, yeah.
He was launching that, and he was starting to build his team, and he told the guys, like, because they wanted to hit the studio in like February, and he's like, I got stuff going on until the summer, like I can't do this right now. And they ended up, without his knowing, putting out a statement saying that Tom has left the band, and we're going to be moving forward the best way we can as we embark on a new adventure or something. And Tom puts out an immediate statement going, I don't know what the fuck this is. I didn't leave the band. I just told them I couldn't go to the studio right now. And, ooh, damn. And they ended up...
That's helping.
Right? There is an accident in front of us. That is awful. Do you see the tires on that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a mess.
Oh,
and it's a nice car to be a mess like that.
Right? Oh, man.
Oh, and a Dodge Caravan. Oh, wow.
Ooh, that front of that car was messed up.
That is a mess. That explains the traffic. I'm sitting here thinking, what time is it? Like, why is it backed up? Wow.
So,
I mean, in that I imagine you were into Blink as a band, like, I get the feeling like Travis is a really chill, middle-of-the-road, non-confrontational guy. Was that all Mark? Is he just like a power tripper?
Tom and Travis are still good friends, talk and tweet each other all the time.
Oh, wow.
Constantly. Mark, from what I heard from an interview, actually did talk to Tom on the phone like a couple months ago, so that it seems like they're trying to at least be friends again.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was totally Mark being completely fed up with Tom's shit. And apparently one thing that Tom did, which is kind of sleazy-ish, was he didn't communicate his stuff directly to the other guys. He usually used like his manager.
Oh, wow.
To tell the guys, like, I can't do this right now, which Mark took as a big fuck you, and what do you think, you're bigger than us kind of thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which I completely get that.
Yeah.
Wow. But at the end of the day, Tom never quit. He was replaced by Skiba.
Were they, I mean, before the press release and all that, were they quietly already like courting other possibilities, or did they completely separate him and then like, hey, let's shop around?
It happened real quick, so it seemed like they are, but it's Blink, so they probably had 400 people hit them up immediately and say, hey, do you want to keep going, you know, so I don't know.
Wow.
I got no clue. And I was never a big Alkaline Trio guy, so...
I'm still not. Every time somebody's like, oh, Alkaline, I'm like, I don't think you know good music.
Right.
And we're probably going to stop talking now, because I don't understand why that's good.
Yeah, it's not that good.
Most emo music, like brand new, I don't know, there's just stuff, I can't figure it out.
Right.
Wow.
I guess some of it is okay, but...
So, I mean, you've met Tom, like, A handful of times.
Well, one time he actually let me on stage, which was the coolest.
Shut your mouth.
So this was 2000 and I would want to say 12. So I first met him. Let me go back. The first time I met him was at the very first Angels and Airwaves show that they ever had, and it was in Ventura, California, in 2008 or 7.
Oh, fun.
So when he announced, I have a new band, Angels and Airwaves, and we're going to be launching a new album, and they had put out the Adventure song, so that was the only song
Makes
that
sense.
anybody
Okay.
knew.
Yeah.
He then set out on tour dates, and the very first one was Ventura, California. And my buddy and I were like, we're going to this. And the moment it opened up, we went on and we got tickets and drove to Ventura.
Yeah.
And it was a small theater, like smaller than the Marquee. So it was really crazy that we were able to get a ticket to that. And we got to see Tom in his very first Angels and Airwaves show.
Was this pre-stage production before they'd really figured it out and then turned into that big
straight
song?
raw, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They didn't have nothing going on behind them. It was just new music. You had only heard one song of any of it.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening was at the end of the show, it's a small venue, and there's only, in California, there's no like back alleys in a lot of places. Like the band has to leave out the front by the sidewalk. And so we're standing around, like, I'm waiting for the band to come out, and the guys are like, oh, Tom left immediately. Like, as soon as he came off, he's gone. And I'm like, no, he didn't. And I just sat there and I waited for like 2 hours, and eventually there's only like 5 of us out there. And sure enough, Tom and his pregnant wife come walking out. And he's kind of doing this to everybody. And I was like, Tom, please, man. And he turned around and he signed my my ticket that I had. That's all I really had in my hands. Shook my hand and walked off. So that was kind of my first meeting.
Is he still? I don't know that I ever conceptualized him as married. Like, Mark has been on film and in interviews and talked about his family. I think Travis has a kid, but I don't know that he's married or something like that.
He was married, and then they got a divorce, Travis. Tom's got a really crazy... Tom was married longer than all of them. Tom married his high school sweetheart even before, even before Enema of the State came out.
Wow.
They just got a divorce. Check this out.
Oh,
the
yikes.
day I met him again this last time. It all kind of goes full circle. The second time I met him was 2014 or 2012. He was on tour doing the Love album for Angels and Airwaves, and they were I was in South Florida back then, out like by Pompano Beach, and I wasn't working at the time, and I was doing school online, and so my sister had given me birthday tickets to go see Angels and Airwaves, and I had nothing better to do, so I just went like at noon, rather than waiting for them to open.
Yeah.
And I was hanging out with this guy standing by the fence, talking to him forever about all kinds of stuff, and he ended up getting a microphone and calling to everybody who had special passes to go do the meet and greet. And I'm like, it's a fucking meet and greet? Really? How the hell did I not know about this? And he goes, he lets everybody in, and he looks over at me and he goes, come on, dude. He just lets me go. and then he just tells me, he goes, they paid to be here, so don't get in their way. Kind of stay in the back, but you'll be in there. So we got to see them do their warm up, like 3 songs.
Nice.
Rehearsal, and then they have us line up in front of the stage, and they come walking down, and they're meeting everybody, and again I'm the last person, and Tom comes by, and now he's willing to like talk and chat and do whatever, and we take pictures with we have the same tattoo, and he gives me a big sweaty hug. It's great. Took pictures together, and then he goes, because it's an amphitheater, and he goes, what's the handicap situation? And I'm like, I gotta fight the crowd, bro. There is no handicap situation. And he goes, how many people you got with you? And I'm like, it's just going to be me and my sister. She's coming like in an hour.
Yeah.
He goes, well, if you promise not to trip me, you can probably come on stage. I was like, and so he called over his tour manager, and he goes, before the set starts, make sure you grab them. And he tells us, like, just go to the side of the stage. We'll be there. So my sister comes, and I'm like, you'll never fucking just guess what happened. Like, I literally hung out with Tom, and he wants us on stage with him. She's like, shut the fuck up, you know? And so I get her back there, and we have to watch the opening bands, you know, and the last band goes off, and it's that anxious feeling, like, did they forget me? And I'm waiting, and now the ambiance is starting, and the lights are dimming, and I'm like, they fucking forgot us. And last minute, fucking door swings open, he goes... And we go back and we, you know, get right up next to the guitar tech, and I'm waiting for like the band to come up beside us, but they end up coming out the other side of the stage. And Tom does his whole thing where his back's to the crowd, you know, and he comes out and the music's building, and he's playing with the sound thing, and he has his guitar, and it's the big build to when he turns around and everyone screams and there's a pop, you know. And as the build's coming, he gets his thing on, the lights get brighter and brighter, and he turns and he sees me and my sister, and he goes. And then turns and does his thing. And I was like, yes, that's all I've ever wanted.
Wow.
So that was the second time, and the third time actually just happened last month or 2 months ago at the Marquee Theater. When Blink kicked him out of the band, he didn't immediately go back and do Angels and Airwaves. He was really focused on the To the Stars Academy. He hadn't played a live show in over 7 years. And then he announced we're going to go on tour, the Angels and Airwaves. And the very first show on the tour was Tempe at the Marquee Theater.
Wow.
And they did a meet and greet. So I got the tickets this time. And then this time they let me be the first person in, you know, with my wife. And I didn't know what they were going to let in or out. So I took the old, because I have 2 series of his guitars. One is the old Blink one, the blue with the pearloid pickguard that shines, and then like his newer model, which is that brown, like the ES model with Gibson. So I was like, I'm gonna take the old Blink one, that one that pops, and I brought the whole guitar in a hard shell case with me into the theater, and we do a quick picture with him and stuff, and I'm like, Tom, do you mind signing my guitar? He's like, fuck yeah. And so he takes it out, and what he does, his signature was T-O-M, but the O was a dude's head with eyes, and he's coming down, and then he's little arms that come out where he's grabbing the T and grabbing the M, and it says Tom across it, and it's over the pearloid pickguard, and now I have that hung up in a case in my house.
So good.
So that was the third time.
Wow.
Good dude, man.
That's heavy.
Yeah. What's really funny is my wife was never into that kind of music, and she knew I was, and she kind of just like was like, whatever. We've now gone to 2 Angels and Airwaves shows because they came back a second time for Christmas. And after the first show, she got amped. She's like, I didn't know any of the lyrics, but that was amazing. And so she started Apple Music playing like all their albums, learning all the songs, like correcting me on lyrics and stuff. And then we go to the next show and she gets even more excited, and now she's like, we gotta do another meet and greet. I'm like, babe, they come around about every 10 years. I don't know how often we're gonna get one of these. But she loves Angels and Airwaves now. She's not as much of a Blink-182 fan. She likes some of their music, but she loves Angels and Airwaves.
I mean, it feels to me like Angels is just like the U2 of the Blink world. Like, it's just
Very
more soundscaping and I don't even know what stories. Is he like a storyteller in his music, or is he just kind of, is it just poetry that just kind of whatever?
No, well, his so he's got themes, right?
Okay.
His very first one, We Don't Need to Whisper, was very much just his coming out.
Okay.
Of what is my sound going to be? How are people going to take it? Is this going to work? You know. He then went into more of a heavier, punchier sound when it came to the second album, which was I Empire, which is more fucking rock and punk rock in your face a little bit. And then he hit the Love albums, which was really cool. So he was long time in a contract with MCA Geffen Records, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And
meaning that after Blink kicked him out, they picked him up. They're like, we want to be in the Tom business.
During the whole thing, when
Really?
actually when he had done Boxcar originally back in like 2004 or something, or 2001 maybe.
Yeah.
They had signed individual contracts with the labels. So they're like, anything you do, we haven't, you know. And that worked for him until he got to the Love album, because he had built his own studio. He was recording his own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He bring in his own guy to help do the recordings, but it was all in his own place.
Okay.
Let me make sure I didn't pass where we're going.
I have no idea where we're going. Like, in the sense of I went there like once 10 years ago. I don't even know.
So he ended up, what he wanted to do. Yeah, we did pass it. Damn it. There. That's what happens when you get talking, homie.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. Or maybe. Oh, no, we haven't yet. Okay. Woo. So, with Love, he wanted to put it out on Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
And what he wanted to do is he wanted to give it away for free. Or he wasn't going to have physical copies. He was going to do streaming only.
But not even like a Radiohead thing where it's like, pay what you want. He was literally like, I don't want your money.
Right, I don't want your money. Just take it. This is my love to you.
Oh, wow.
And the whole theme was love. Love about your child, love about your lover, love about the world. And that was everything. He just wanted to be uplifting, and the whole theme of love.
Wow.
And MCA said, absolutely not. You're not giving anything away. And he went to court and actually paid out of his own pocket to break his contract.
Oh, wow.
So that he could then release that for free, which is what he did.
Damn. I have to go listen to it now.
Great. And there's a Love Part 1, and then he did a Love Part 2, which came out after. They're both fantastic.
So in that you've met the guy like 3 times, does he know that you do music? And does he know like the way in which your music like is inspired by him, like the way it reflects what he does?
Dude, I'm a schoolgirl around him, bro. I can't. No, but I actually became friends with Taking Back Sunday, in the same kind of vein of meeting them, talking about, they didn't want me to, not be able to see, put me on the side of the stage, and then basically said, anytime we're in town, just hit us up, you know, and I got to hang out with them every time backstage and stuff. One was their CD release show, which was just great, bro. With them, I hang out for like an hour and a half after the show and talk. And I very much talked to Adam about how his lyrics and the way he writes influenced me, how it helped me when I was in the hospital, those kind of things. But I've never been able to have like a deep conversation with Tom. I wish so.
Wow. So, and that we're, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes away from this thing. And I definitely want to dig way more into this, like, from the time that, the Smoke on the Water days and then getting into Green Day and then that sort of like leading into Blink, like, at what point did the enjoyment of playing guitar turn into I want to create, like I want to write music?
Oh, immediately.
Really?
Immediately. I was always in. Now, my friends will tell you that all I wanted to do was be in a Blink-182 cover band in high school. But really what it was I liked to play a lot of Blink songs. I knew them and I was good at it. But I was also trying to take those influences and write some of my own songs. And I put out my first demo album with my buddies from high school when I was a senior in high school. And it was after my car accident. I'd had my car accident the year before. And I was in a band before, I was in a band after, and now I'm in a wheelchair, and I'm also the lead singer, and everyone's got to deal with it, and I was trying to get used to that in my own head, and still being able to get up and play shows in front of a bunch of people, and not think like everyone's just looking at me or sympathizing with me because I'm weird, And so, when I started realizing that people are into this, and I put out this little demo, that was the very end of my high school, and the demo sucks, like, don't ever look it up, it's the worst thing ever.
Okay.
No, let's go this one. Okay. And then when I got to college, I immediately, now I'm in the big city, and I'm immediately looking for people that want to play with me. Mm-hmm. And I'm no longer interested in being in a Blink-182 cover band. I want to write my own shit. And I found one dude who lived in Peoria named Alex, and he was the friend that actually went with me to the Angels and Airwaves show in Ventura and all that I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
He is a huge Tom DeLonge, Blink-182, Angels and Airwaves fan, and we were into the same kind of music, and I would drive on the weekends all the way to Peoria and stay at his house, and we would sit up late at night, drinking wine and and writing songs.
Mm-hmm.
And we never played a show together. He ended up joining another band and doing his own thing, and I kind of grabbed more people from this side of the valley to start playing. And but those were the inner workings of the beginnings of my first band, The Undecided, the songs that we wrote.
Oh, wow.
So I was in that band, The Undecided, for like 5 years. But all we ever did was write about 12 songs and play maybe once every like 4 months at a gig that we could finally find, you know?
Oh, wow.
And
was that fulfilling? Like, was that as much as you really wanted out of it, or?
no, I wanted more, but it was as much as I could put in because I was a full-time college student.
Oh.
And so I couldn't go on the road, I couldn't do anything, and we just didn't put enough time and effort into rehearsing to be good, you know? And what ended up happening was, it wasn't until after I graduated from college and decided to start another band with better musicians that I then had money, I then had time, I then had resources. Then it's let's rehearse at least three times a week at SRE Studios or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody had to pitch in, and that's just how it works, you know.
Wow.
I don't know where this is taking me.
And so that was the beginning of Burn This for a Friend.
And that was Burn This for a Friend. And then we started really getting into finding a unique sound and trying to build on that. And then I got to really get into creative writing. Like, what are my themes? What do I want to write about? And, you know, everything from drug addiction to alien invasions to anything else that tickles my fancy. And I really loved it, man. We got the van. I'm sure you saw at the end. We bought a van.
Yeah, that's right.
Threw a logo on it, and we went all over the Southwest playing shows. You know, you only get as much money to put gas in the tank and a little bit of food in your belly, and you just keep moving. But shit, we were getting paid by strangers to play our music, and there was nothing more fulfilling than that. Nothing. And then we could come back and play a big show in Scottsdale in front of 150 people and be like, this is really fun. The last couple shows we played, one was in Vegas at the spot called what is it called? They have a drink there called Ash Juice. It's called, I want to say, what is it called? I'll think about it later. Anyway, it's right off the strip behind the MGM, and it's this little punk bar. And they always have a good punk crowd that comes in there and just loves the music and wants to mosh and drink ash juice, and then, you know, mosey out to gamble. They even have gambling machines in there, so if you really want your fix and still listen to music, you can do it. And so we played there quite a few times. So that was one of the last shows we played. And then the very last show we played was at, do you know JT Trick?
No.
He's like a local promoter guy down here. He puts on a festival thing called it was the Canyon Lake Music Festival, but I think he may have moved locations.
Okay.
But every year he would get the best local bands together, and what you would do is instead of selling tickets to the show, you sell camping spots. So you can bring a trailer or a tent or whatever you want, camp at the lake in Canyon Lake, and then it's like 2 or 3 days.
So fucking smart.
Of full music. So everyone's barbecuing. There's an actual big stage they build there, and the whole thing. And so that was the very last show I ever played was doing that one. And then my bassist moved. My longtime guitarist ended up getting hardcore into drugs. He's a lot better now. He's gotten sober, but you just couldn't be around him for a while, you know. And then it all just kind of fell apart. And then with my, you know, getting married and everything else, like, I have a desire to play music. I have a desire to, like, maybe do an open mic night or something. I would love to do, like, a reunion show or something like that. But the idea of, like, trying to write songs again and all that, it's almost exhausting.
Yeah.
With everything else going on.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of passion and energy to really make
it does.
It work.
It 100% does. I've been thinking as I've been listening to you talk, literally, like, the timbre of your voice, and I've been thinking about, on a mechanical level, like, with like, for example, you and Chris Nunes from like Curbside High, Afterlight, etc. Both of you have like deeper speaking voices, and yet both of you can just hit ranges
Real
vocally that I can't. Like, they're just insane. And mechanically speaking, I can't figure out why that is.
It's 20 years of singing like Tom DeLonge. That's funny. It's true, man. I in my job that I do, I have a team that works underneath me, and I have to sometimes present to other groups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And my one-on-one with my manager just last week after a big presentation to like 70 people was the fact that I have such an authoritative voice already that when I go into these meetings, I don't have to overdo it and think like, I got to be in charge here. Just talk, because everyone just is going to listen. You know what I mean? Your voice is already there. You don't have to overdo it.
Yeah.
Which is funny, because I always think of myself as the high-pitched singer that everyone thought was a bitch sometimes. And now they're like, no, your voice is really low. You need to stop. So.
I mean, on a personal note, with your music, although I'm not acquainted with a ton of it, I enjoyed the bromance one. What was that?
Great bromances.
Great bromances of the 21st century.
Ode to Take It Back right there.
In that, in knowing you and being like vaguely associated with you, like I'm aware, of the accident, and I'm aware that there was, basically two different parts of your life. Like, I get so like choked up, so moved by that lyric in a song that I'm gonna forget the name of it, but where you're like, this is all I need to get me on my feet, to get this crowd moving. Like, I can't even. Every time I hear you play that song, because
I'm glad you remember that lyric. That's good.
The poetry of you having... I feel like we could do an entire podcast just about the experience of you having an accident and having something so vital, like walking, standing, like just taken away from you, to come back from that and to be able to like keep your optimism, your sense of humor, your all of that. But then, I mean, that song couldn't have been written beforehand. Like, to put a lyric in a song that communicates to a crowd that the fact that they're there and they're pumping their fists and they're singing along, they're having a good time, gives you a feeling similar or as close as you're probably gonna get to being back on your feet. And it's just so damn moving to me. I can't even.
Thanks, man. That's good. Nobody ever talked to me about my lyrics. That's cool.
That whole song's got great lyrics. I feel like
that's a good one.
With your music, and maybe I owe you a public apology here, because there was a while back where like you were fishing around, I think for a bass player, and I threw my hat in the ring because I think I just left the Afterlight or something like that, and we were emailing back and forth and you were sending me tracks, and I was like just kind of getting into the band, and then a few weeks into that I was just like, hey, sorry to be flaky, but I'm not gonna actually do this after all, and you were very sweet about it. But I feel like the one thing I guess I never offered you was an explanation, in the sense that, I don't know, I'm just not good with things that, might hurt other people's feelings, or things that just might make somebody else feel like less than about what they do, because I think all music should exist, but like with you, I think lyrics is where you shine, and I think musically speaking, I feel like you don't need like highly technical guitar parts or anything. Like you can create a really I don't know, just kind of a powerful and driving melody, and that's a place of comfort for you, I guess, musically, where you're just like, okay, here's the platform, here's the foundation of what I want to write on, and then when you start pounding the vocals and the lyrics into it, I think that's where you do your best work, is your vocals and your lyrics. And that being said, I haven't gone back and really like super reviewed the lyrics to find even the stories in it, or what it is that you're trying to say. I know you've got like a huge political background that maybe we'll talk about on the way home, because it fascinates me.
I'd love to show you the last couple of songs that we recorded. Remember Greeley Estates?
Yes.
And their drummer, Champ.
Brian, yeah. Uh-huh.
He came in and laid down the drums for two of these tracks, and they're insane. They're the hardest hitting, most in your face. I scream in these songs. Like,
you never released them?
Well, I do actually. They're on iTunes.
Oh,
yeah.
I'll check them out.
It's because the whole Bromances album's gone down, and we call it All the Good Ones. It's got a couple of the best Bromance songs on it and the 2 new ones on it, and that's
Wow.
what we kept on iTunes.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Damn it. I didn't know that existed. I gotta go check that out.
Yeah, dude, because Brian Champ is amazing.
And a ridiculous sweetheart of a human being.
yeah.
I can't even with that guy.
Bro, he showed up because we did it with Jeff. Jeff called him in.
Jeff Tretta, Blue Exit
Tretta.
Audio. Shout
Yeah,
out.
shout out, Jeff. Handicap.
Okay.
4. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
He calls up Brian because we had our old drummer come in and try to lay him down, and he did an awful job. Like, it was embarrassing. And afterwards, Jeff goes, he's not in the band anymore, right? And I'm like, no, man, he's doing this on a favor. And he goes, well, maybe drummer for hire. I'll call Brian. And Brian didn't even want money. He just showed up within 30 minutes. I don't think he had shoes.
Sounds right.
Sat down like a 3-piece kit, and he goes, just play me the tracks of the guitar stuff that you guys have done, and I can get the feel. So he did them both, and I think he laid them down in about maybe 2 sessions each. And
great.
the whole time he's like, me and Sean are in the freaking control room going, oh my God, if we had him, we would be famous.
Yes. Yes.
Holy crap. That's what Travis did for Blink, when Travis came in and they realized, oh, we don't want Scott anymore. This is a different level. Man, the drummer makes all the difference.
Yes. Have you heard
God.
Coyote Tango? Like what Brian's doing now, his current project?
Is that like the softer stuff? Or no?
Yeah. It's more indie.
Yeah.
It's kind of, yeah.
I guess not softer, but they do more acoustic-y stuff, right?
No.
No?
It's very effect-driven. It's a 3-piece. It's just him, Matt, somebody. They all come from different bands and stuff. So like the bass player, I had him on the podcast. I can't remember his name right now. Shame on me. Was with Brian in Bears of Manitou. That was the acoustic thing. You might remember that with Gabe and what's her bucket.
Yeah.
So the bass player is now with him in Coyote Tango, and then Matt from some other band that I can't remember. It's just more of I described them to them as you're like Coldplay meets Kings of Leon with like a dash of Muse. Like there's definitely like the aggressiveness of the rock side, kind of like Muse does. His voice is very Kings of Leon. It's just very like emotive and kind of pitchy in good ways. And I don't know, I guess the Coldplay side, like the composition of it, it's very, I mean, not like as maybe like crazy as Radiohead, but really well composed, and the lyrics are just really kind of spacey and interesting. It's an interesting band.
Check them out, man. Yeah,
but Brian like brings his Brian-ness to it, where like I've listened to the albums and I'm like, this is cool, and then I saw him live and I'm like, this fucking guy, when he gets behind a kit and there's adrenaline in his veins, it's almost terrifying.
Yeah.
He's insane.
And he does it with the biggest smile on his face. Like he's
Loves
in
it.
his element.
One of the reasons why I think you should try to figure out how to do a reunion show for Burn This For a Friend is because everybody's getting their bands back together.
Right.
Curbside's back together. The Heartless is back together. Like, everybody's coming
Let's
back.
do one big show together,
You should.
We'll just call it the reunion.
You should. Pack the marquee. Everybody would show up to that.
That'd be fucking great, actually. That's a great idea. I just gotta get my fingers moving again. I actually ended up selling off most of my big equipment.
Oh, wow. That's kind of a dark day where you're just like, all right,
dude.
Dream, you're out the door now.
When I let that Mesa Boogie go, I was like, a tear was coming out of my damn eye. That was a beautiful
Which,
thing.
P.S., where the fuck did Mesa Boogie go in the community?
Really?
Like,
Honestly.
Orange showed up and everybody's like, fuck Mesa Boogie. And I'm
Right.
like, have you heard an Orange?
Right.
It's like a ratty British amp. Like, there's the crunch, the beef of a Mesa Boogie. Like,
Yeah, and they're ridiculously expensive Orange for what you get out of it.
yes.
Ridiculously expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
it would be a great thing to have in the studio, but I don't want that to be my only sound on stage.
Yes,
you know?
an amp, not the amp. Kind of like
Right.
Vox.
Right.
Nice to have a Vox around to just have that tone to play around with, but it's not what you take on stage. What are you doing?
Exactly.
Stupid.
So yeah, I miss that. I miss those. I ended up actually getting a gold top. I think it's a 57 reissue. What did they call it? Tribute. I think they call it the Tribute.
Wow.
I always wanted a gold top Les Paul. And I finally got one, and now I have it. I don't even write music, but I would love to think about me putting this in the studio, you know.
Maybe forget writing music. Maybe you should do like a tribute album to Tom or something, where you just go in and do like kind of your own version covers of like some of your favorite songs.
Yeah, that would probably be easier for me to start getting into. And the funniest thing is, you know, now I have a wife, and my wife loves all my old music that was all written about other girls, right? And she's like, "We're married, you don't write a song about me?" Handicap, sir.
What's that?
Handicap.
You got a plate?
Yeah, on the back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, got it.
Thank you.
All right.
We're here, man.
We did it.
I'm so excited.
All right, we're gonna cut this thing, and we'll have some more fun on the way back. We'll have all sorts of chatty chat.
Heck yeah, man.
Part 2. And the finale of this, huh?
Yeah, that was fun, dude.
That was fun. Phoenix Open. I learned a lot about golf today.
Yeah, I apologize.
I don't apologize at all. I think everybody that knows me is gonna be that knows me and loves golf is gonna be irritated by me now, because I'm gonna be like, I think I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna lean into this golf thing a bit and see what there is for me in this.
You gotta come out with me, bro.
Yeah.
And definitely come to the Open in May, dude. That's gonna be fun. Let's check
the one here.
Yeah, the one that it's the Disabled Open.
Oh, right.
All the best golfers in the world with all the different disabilities.
Yeah.
Competing. It's really cool.
For sure.
Alright, I'll get out of here.
That way? I'm gonna guess. Wanna throw a guess on that? He seems to agree.
2.
You too!
Ugh.
So, what school did you go to?
I went to St. John's High in northern Arizona. Then I went to MCC for a couple of years. Then I got my bachelor's through Arizona State. And then I got my master's through the American Public University.
Look at you. What was the bachelor's in?
Intelligence Studies with a focus on counterterrorism.
Damn.
Unless you wonder why I work in certification now.
Well, I mean, you did work for the government for a minute and a half.
Yeah, it was a good time. Worked for the State Department back in 2007.
So for the sake of people watching and or listening, in today's terms, what figure would you have been working under? Like, who's the person who currently has the job that would have been your boss?
Right now, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo.
Okay.
Would have been,
and back then it was Condoleezza Rice.
It was Condoleezza Rice.
All right. And under Obama, it was Hillary? Was she Secretary of State?
Yeah, for half of it. Half of it was Hillary, half of it was John Kerry.
Oh.
So his first term had Hillary.
Wow. That's interesting. To transition in that way.
You know, they do that sometimes, and Hillary wanted to because she always knew she was running for president again. She did. So what she didn't want to do is try to run for president while acting as Secretary of State.
Okay.
Because it's a conflict of interest and all kinds of other stuff. So she knew she wanted to get out after 2 years or 4 years. And then Kerry came into the next time.
Wow.
But yeah, man, that was a great time. I worked on the Iran portfolio. Back when Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was the president of Iran, saying like the Holocaust never happened and stuff like that. And we were putting like sanctions out against Iran. And I had to work with, I was in the Bureau of Legislative Affairs, so I worked with Congress directly.
Okay.
And I had a lot of good memories doing that. But it was only for a few months.
Now, I don't pretend to know. To have a detailed understanding of politics. Didn't we just take a giant shit on our relations with Iran?
Well, yeah, big one. So, Obama had signed an agreement with Iran that would prevent them from continuing to develop nuclear weapons, along with us lifting sanctions and things like that against them, right? We should go east, right?
Yeah. Well, because we're at the very northernmost peak of it.
Yeah.
At this point, it's kind of, yes, correct.
So Obama had put that agreement into place, but Trump's people didn't like the agreement. They thought we conceded too much to Iran. They didn't like that we got rid of sanctions and stuff, and so he undid that agreement, which then pulled us out of that agreement, which then caused Iran to say, well, we're going to keep making our nuclear weapons now. And they've gone ahead and kept building them. So, kind of took a huge shit on that. See, the thing about diplomacy, any good diplomacy, is it's about give and take. You're never going to get out of a compromise or a situation where you're completely on top, ever. You just do what's right to get you to a place that you mutually agree not to destroy the world, you know? And somehow Trump doesn't like that. He wants to be the big guy. And show how powerful he is. That all being said, I haven't been tuned into actual Iranian or American foreign policy for many years. So at this point I'm talking out of what I see on TV, you know? But that was cool. I did my master's degree. I did my thesis on how to gather more actionable and reliable intelligence on our own. And my proposal was that we needed to go back to more of like a 1970s, 1980s style Cold War human intelligence gathering efforts, because we relied too much on like satellite data and public information and informants and things like that. You don't really have, like, when it was us against Russia, man, you didn't know who was working for who. Everybody's infiltrated. There's double spies everywhere, but you got the most accurate, most reliable intelligence ever. We kind of lost that over the years with our technology.
Wow.
So that was what my thesis was on. And then I work in testing.
I mean, do you have any desires or feelings about getting like associated with politics again, or trying to like make any impact or change? Or was your experience in government such that you're like, the machine's too big and it's already too broken and I'm just gonna live in this country and its freedoms?
Funny enough, I actually got hit up last week from the Arizona Democratic Party to ask me if I would consider running for city council of Chandler.
Why?
They were looking for people, and that was one of the people, I guess. And I thought it was funny. And I've never said yes. I haven't looked into it.
Is that the kind of job that you can have while also still having a career? Like you can.
That's the part I have to look into.
Yeah.
I have to see what kind of
you're thinking
time
about
commitment. If I could juggle it, I would love to do something like that, to get involved locally in politics and have that's where most of the impact happens anyway.
Wow.
The stuff that happens in Washington doesn't necessarily affect your day-to-day as much as your city council does, and so I would highly consider it, as long as I could continue working my job as I do and being able to compete like I do with golf.
Wow.
Those are my priorities right now. I always figured I'd probably do it as I got older. I never thought I'd get hit up at 33 to consider running, which I thought was funny.
How, I mean, in that your work in the government was under a Republican cabinet or administration, how does the Democratic Party know that you're political? Maybe that question answers itself. Like I'm a member of the Democratic Party, and so they know where my affiliation lies. But
the thing about the State Department is, it is, no matter what the administration is, it's the olive branch of government.
Oh,
you know what I mean? They're the diplomats, they're the diplomacy. So even if I don't like necessarily the direction or whatever of the president, what you're doing is non-confrontational work to try to bring people together. So for me, it didn't matter what administration you were in. You're doing the work of your federal government to try to bring the world together. get people on the same page. And I always liked that. That's why if I did work in government, I wouldn't want to work for the Department of Defense. You know, I would highly think twice before I even work for something like the NSA, because morally there's stuff that I don't necessarily agree with. But the State Department, I'm okay with the State Department. You know, stuff.
Wow.
So that's why I was able to work under the Bush administration while 100% rallying and campaigning against him, and for his successor and everything else. It was still good work, you know, and I'm proud of what I got to know and got to kind of see behind the curtains a little bit. I can give people like you kind of an inside idea of what's going on when like a major thing happens, like Iran.
How does working for the administration and campaigning against it affect your day-to-day working in it? Like, do you walk in the office and there are certain people that just give you the eye, or?
Not at all. So it's a very... The workers of the State Department, the everyday workers, are non-political. There's nobody sitting there with like a picture of the president on their table or anything. But what you do have is the political appointees, like the Undersecretary of State. Those kind of people are direct political appointees from the president and the state, and they are very political. You know, so as long as you're kind of staying out of that realm, and nobody cares what your political affiliation is, as long as you get your job done.
Wow.
Yeah, there's only a handful of very political positions in that kind of job. So yeah, it made it easy. It wasn't as morally difficult as it might seem. You know, at no point was there, the idea of sending people to war or anything like that, like you might get working in the Department of Defense. You know, having to deal with those kind of situations. So.
In your both education in and dealings in government, and then just being a civilian and knowing very regular, very run-of-the-mill people and having political conversations with them, what are your thoughts on how educated the American public is on?
It's hilarious, actually. So I get into deep political conversations with some of my best friends, and they're all usually libertarians, right? The libertarians love, because they always think they have the high ground on every fucking thing, right? And if you happen to have an R or a D next to your name, you're just a fucking idiot. And I love getting into those conversations, because when you get into the nitty-gritty of the actual policies, a lot of times they fucking agree with you, you know? And it's like, and when you show them the party or the person that they align with most, they look at that and go, nope, I don't like them. Nope, not happening. So I find it hilarious that the people that seem to be the most engaged and the most willing to talk and deal in politics are also the ones that don't want to hear any of the good about it. They don't want to hear how they could be a solution. They don't want to hear how there could be a politician that they could actually like, you know? No, they just want down with the system kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I get a kick out of that now. And when an international situation arises that becomes public knowledge, and then my friends like to talk about it and what they know about it, it's funny to see that and realize that the only information they're getting is what they're allowed to be told. And when you're behind the curtain and you see it, you understand that there is a lot of very specific, detailed information about an international event that the public's never going to know for a reason. And it's classified, and you have different levels of classification, and by the time you get to hear it and you think you're hearing the whole story, you're not. And so I'm at the point where I'm educated enough now to, even when I hear a story, I know I don't know enough. I know that there's stuff I don't know about this, and there's no way for me to make like a real decision on what I feel about something, you know?
How far before the Trump era do you think fake news was beginning? Like when we were just actually being fed intentionally false or fabricated stories about things going on?
The day that Fox News Network decided to become a quote-unquote news organization was the day we got fake news in this country. They're in an entertainment group that mocks themselves as being a news organization. And because of that, and because of the success that they had, you had the bigwigs following suit. You have there's times, like, I watch CNN and I for television news as close to the stories you can see. But you can see the bias in it now. You can see I'm not there to get the anchor's view on stuff. I'm there to hear the news. But that whole thing came about when Fox News became a 24-hour thing that they were going to put in front of you with anchors. And they were going to... It's the way that they talk and the way that they display information is all skewed and biased. And that's the fake news to me. It's not fake stories, it's your fake slants on what the story is, right? There's only a story. There's certain things that happen, but the way you tell that story and the way you position it, as a director, is everything to the person that's watching it. And that's where I think everybody started to fall off the rails a bit when Fox News became as popular as they were. That's what it was. It's about money. It's about views. How many people are watching?
So CNN and NBC and all of those outlets were doing an acceptable job up to that point?
Fucking better than they are now, for sure.
Wow.
But it's always television, right? At some point, television is television. There's that viewpoint to it. But
I've definitely heard people make reference to the fact that things started going off the rails when news networks became 24 hours. Because, yes, there's a lot of things happening in this world, and there's a lot of even things worth reporting and worth talking about in this world, but 24 fucking hours a day, now you're putting yourself in a position where you're just throwing
you have to talk about something.
Anything against the wall because you got to keep going, and that's...
And then what ends growing from that is your 8-person panels where you talk for 30 minutes about what a tweet, what this tweet meant.
Right.
That's not news, man. That's
and when tweets became, what did they say? Tweets are now considered sources.
Yeah.
Like a legitimate source for a story.
Yeah, that's where they look. Because think about this. Did you know that it's been, I think, almost 2 years since we've had a White House press briefing?
I didn't even think about that until you just said it.
We have a White House.
Didn't the White House press secretary get fired?
We've had 3 firings, dude. So it started with Spicy, Sean Spicer, which was hilarious. Then we had Sarah Huckabee. Now we have another lady, but she's been press secretary for almost 2 years and has never given one
press conference.
Yeah. Not one. It's completely barren in there. So the only way you can get any information out of this closed up, awful administration is to fucking look at the president's tweets. And the hardest thing, so there's precedent that is set from a president. What a president says and what a president writes is part of, it becomes, he's the commander-in-chief. It becomes what they do, right? So, for instance, when Obama ended, was it Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and all that, right? It was a multi-month process of laying out ground rules and works and putting things in front of the military and showing them what they're going to do, how they can be more open to, an open person and that's working, that's in their platoon or whatever. When Trump got into office and he decided that he didn't want transgenders in the military anymore, he just tweeted it. Now, what happens is it was his voice, it was his writing. Technically, when he says transgenders are not allowed in his military anymore, all of the military has to kick out the transgenders. That is now the policy of the United States of America. He doesn't have to have it signed by Congress. He's the president. He can say that. But his generals literally ignored him and went to their people and said, yeah, we're not doing this. The president's doing his tweet thing. If this is going to become something, we're going to go through better channels. But they've literally had to go around Trump because he doesn't understand his own power. What you say and what you do affects everybody who works underneath you. And imagine that power as a president, as the commander-in-chief of the military, where those generals have to take your word and your guidance as what the hell they're supposed to be doing. It's dangerous, man. It's super dangerous. The guy wields power he doesn't even know he owns.
I don't know. And I think I was talking to somebody the other day about, actually about sort of power in general, and I think we were talking about a religious leader and sort of the history of religious leaders, and I guess my own perception of my own connection to the things that they say. And I grew up Mormon, and because the leader of the church is a prophet and considered so, like they give him the same respect, and they follow him as if he were Moses or as if he were Abraham, or in that vein,
God's
because
disciple
that's
on earth, kind of.
exactly.
Yeah.
So although in the vein of God's plan, there's an acceptance that we mortals are fallible and just capable of fault and misleading people and all those sorts of things, that on some level the prophet gets kind of like placed on a level above that because of his position. Like we assume that he lives in a way that he honors that position so fully that nothing he would say would ever be infallible. So I was talking to my friend about this and how it's taken me into my 30s to be like, you know what, I can listen to this guy and I can glean good stuff from it, but I can draw a line where it's like, not everything he says is the mind and will of God, or where like sometimes it's just Russell talking about Russell's thoughts and feelings. And similarly, like as I was saying this to her, because she's a very devout Mormon, and I was trying to walk a line, I was like, don't get me wrong, I think Russell is being the best Russell that Russell knows how to be, and I think he's being the best president that he knows how to be, in the same vein that one of the things that's so damn sad about Donald Trump is that his performance as president is the best president he knows how to be.
That's all you got.
He's not actually trying to be an awful, shitty president. What he's given you is the best he can think of how to do it.
And what's so funny is I was listening to Rogan a while back, where he had Penn Jillette on.
Yeah.
And Penn was on Celebrity Apprentice.
Uh-huh.
And he's talking to him about Donald Trump. He goes, no, the Donald Trump you see is always who it was.
Uh-huh.
Like his whole boardroom and all that was built in his New York tower, and it is a television set.
Yeah.
And he sits there and he rambles and he rambles and he says things that nobody listens to. And then they take that and they cut it down to 20 seconds of him looking like a boss, saying certain lines, and that's the clip that goes out to everybody. Like you didn't see the rambling, you didn't see the chaos behind the scenes like I did. Like this is who he is. Like that's what you got. So yeah, that's the best you got, man. We got to do better.
I mean, regardless of how anybody feels about like Barack Obama, like, you gotta hand it to the guy for, especially after Bush. And I don't think that Bush was a shitty president, but I do think that I don't think that he was concerned enough about things like the Bushisms, or like just really being super careful about the way he communicated. And so what Obama did respectably well is just bring a dignity back to the office.
Presidential back to the
for
president,
sure. And it's kind of shitty that like with the new election, if by some fucking miracle, because chances are Trump's probably going to pull whatever Trump pulled to get in the first time, and we're probably just going to have 4 more years of Trump, and fine. If something happens where that's not the case and we get another president, all they have to do is be presidential and they'll be fucking worshipped.
Right. Just be a little bit better than what we've had. That's it. You know what's so funny is now that we've had Trump, I kind of miss W a little bit. I actually, at some point, at least I didn't go to sleep like nervous about a nuclear fucking war, and he was a little dumb, but I kind of felt like things were all right. And
which is kind of dark, because you can't say that without the underpinning of saying I kind of miss Cheney.
Yeah, right. Do I though? That was the dangerous one. That was the danger.
Did you see the movie, the Adam McKay movie?
I have to see
Vice?
it.
Oh my
I've
god,
heard it's great.
It's dark. I mean, it's got funny parts, but it's visceral.
Yeah.
I feel like with your experiences, you're gonna be like shaking. You're gonna walk away from it and like need some alcohol or something. It's hard.
I saw Cheney in the back of a limo getting driven through DC when I was working there, and it was so weird because for whatever reason, you would think that these like presidential limo kind of things that they would never let the windows down because that's danger. The fucking window was cracked, and there was people sitting along the side that had guns. You could see their guns, like they were some kind of like human shield while he was sitting on the inside. I guess he was just like, I want some fresh air. Crack that bitch. And I'm like, okay, I got the guns. And they like sit up against the window, and you can see his face as they like speed down the thing. And I'm like, what a weird human being. You know, could just give. I want to be in his shoes for 10 minutes.
In the same way that the Oliver Stone movie W with Josh Brolin, like, I enjoy it as a film, and I don't know how much of it is like super accurate, but I know Oliver Stone's got a reputation for leaning into facts and trying to make things as whatever. Like, in that vein, it's such a sad story about like George's relationship with his father and just all this horse shit. If what Adam McKay did with Vice is even like 80% true, it's fucking horrifying.
Oh. Did he go all into Halliburton and all that shit? Like all of his ties? Is that what it was about? Yeah. It's craziness, man.
Or that like when 9/11 happened, and I guess there's actual footage or actual records of this, so I suppose it is actually true. Cheney basically like called a meeting of like the military and of several different auxiliary leaders, I guess you could say, and started like fucking. You can answer the phone. You need to. Totally cool. Yeah. So in short, he pulls together a meeting that he does not have the authority to pull together, and starts making plans, and starts literally sending like. Giving instructions to military leaders to do things, where if I remember right, and I guess I just have to watch the movie again, I think Condoleezza Rice is next to him, and everybody in the room is looking at her like, can he do this?
Yes, it's okay.
And Dick's just like pounding the table like, get going, this is happening right now.
We're at war.
And the terror of the fact that like that one of the reasons, and I think they do in conversations that they show him having with George, one of the reasons he took the job is because he was just like, I'm gonna need to be in charge of shit. So if you're okay with that, like, and George's position, which I think the Oliver Stone film supported, was just so long as we're calling me president. Right. Like, I'm the president. If that stays that way, sure, you're a smart guy. Let's make sure you're getting shit done. And just how Dick leaned into that, and
he had a lot more power. So Dick Cheney worked under his father in the late 80s, early 90s for H.W. Bush. And he saw that power, because H.W. had a lot of that. And he knew that he was never going to be president. He didn't have the charisma, didn't have the backing, didn't have anything like that. So that was his ideal way of having as much influence and power as possible. Vice president for a guy who doesn't really want the power of the presidency, for sure. And what happened with 9/11 was they were in D.C., so they went into the bunker in the war room, and Condoleezza and all that. For a minute, they didn't know where the president was. He was on the ground in Florida, and then there was a scramble to get him up in the air and secure him. And so while that chaos was going on, is when Cheney takes the reins until honestly W gets on the plane and starts getting involved in all of the meetings as well.
Yeah.
But he had to be up in the air and on his way to wherever the secret location was. And that took probably 30 or 40 minutes. So those 30 minutes of the initial part of the 9/11 was fucking Cheney run.
It's crazy.
What was crazy about it, man, is that nobody communicated with each other. And so we knew that there was an attack imminent. They had, after the first plane had hit, they send up fighter pilots, but don't give them any direction as to what they're looking for. And so they're flying over the city, and they're looking out at the ocean from Europe, thinking something's coming at us from over here. They're all focused this way. Well, back in this direction, another plane's flying into the tower. They didn't know what they were looking for. They didn't know they're looking for a commercial airliner full of civilians, and what the threat was. There was no communication between all of the different branches of government, and that's not necessarily a Cheney issue, but that was just the way that the government siloed itself.
What do you think about all the conspiracies of like 9/11 being an inside job and all that?
No, I don't think that Cheney and George W. had anything to do with it, but I do think it was more than just two planes that went into the building. The way that they fell, the way you can see things like bombs going off on lower floors, like 40 minutes later. It's not just jet fuel running down the thing and going off. Like, it was like a fucking little bomb. And they tried to take down the World Trade Center, and I think it was 94, and failed. And that was with I think it was a car bomb that they brought into like the basement.
Wow.
And it wasn't enough to take the whole thing down. So you think that they had enough time now to figure this out, maybe get an inside guy, plant devices in certain areas, fly some planes in there, and fucking ignite the bombs, let it go. I think it was inside in some sense, that it wasn't just two planes that hit it. But I don't think it was our government that put our citizens at risk to do that.
So in that, again, I'm kind of an informed American, I think, politically speaking. I've never understood the significance of the World Trade Center being the target of this thing. Like, was it the business that was being conducted inside of it? What was so special about that building?
They're the easiest, biggest targets in the center of the biggest city that had all the cameras on it. Like, that was what it was to me. It wasn't that there was government work going on. Now, the reason they crashed into the Pentagon, that makes sense, right? Trying to take out a section of the government. That, too, I don't think it was a plane. I think it was a fucking bomb that went off in the Pentagon. Like,
wow.
there is no real images of a plane flipping over and diving headfirst, and where are all the engines and stuff? Like, when the World Trade Centers were hit, engine parts were falling to the ground on the cement. They were everywhere. And the Pentagon, it hit so fast that it incinerated. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. And apparently it struck like the financial budget area so this is a crazy one, which is true. We can look at it. Donald Rumsfeld was the head of the DoD, the Department of Defense, Secretary of Defense. The day before 9/11, on 9/10, he gives a public press conference where he admits to them losing something like $1 trillion or $2 trillion worth of finances over the last 10 years, right?
Yes. And to this day, no one has it. It's gone.
The area that bomb hit, the thing hit, was the financial budget office area of the Pentagon, where it's probably had all of the records of where that money could have gone.
Wow.
Now we're just like, oh, we lost it. Did we?
$1 trillion?
I think it might have been more. It might have been 2 trillion or something like crazy. You got to look it up.
Isn't that like how much money that we owe to China or something?
Yeah.
Shit, like that's.
It was like a historical kind of record thing. I think that he was talking about. You have to look. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass. It's been a while since I've seen the figures. I missed the 60. Isn't there a branch off this way?
You didn't miss the 60? Because that's the. Oh, you did miss the 60. I'm sorry.
I thought there was another one.
You're thinking about the 10. The 10 will give you that HOV lane thing? Yeah, no, it's not.
Whoopskies.
If we Tempe people.
Right. Stuff like that is very weird, but it's really hard for me to, especially working in government and seeing how chaotic it is. It's really a mess of people kind of working around each other. To think that there's some kind of interagency that can keep secrets like the murdering of thousands of American citizens so that we can cover a budget, like, I don't know.
So
it's not impossible. I just don't know that that's what happened.
In the sense that, like, Tom DeLonge with the whole To the Stars thing, like, always had this interest in, like, extraterrestrial and scientific exploration into space and stuff. It feels like you had a similar interest in politics and global relations and things, and yet here you are in a job that really has nothing to do with that. Like, are you
content in life, kind of thing?
Did it really just burn you that bad, or was it that? I guess in the sense that I consider you and Tom similar in the sense that you're just both very driven human beings. Like, he you know, he built this entire empire off of this thing. I guess maybe politically speaking, I mean, we were talking about the whole Chandler thing a minute ago, and ways that you would feel like you could actually beneficially contribute. I don't know, like how... I guess there is no place in the political world for independent operators.
Yeah, that's where it work out. You got to be a system guy. No, I don't know. That I absolutely. I should have gone that way. I absolutely love government. I love the idea of positively influencing the world and making the world a better place. Right, bringing people together and those kind of things. And I think the most strong way to do that is through government. Is through governments coming together and putting the right policies in place that support and uplift their people, you know, and those kind of things. And I always love that. The honest answer is there's not a lot of opportunity or money in government. You know,
which is interesting because there's millions of dollars flowing just into campaigns right now. That these people, when they don't become president, are just going to get to keep. That's just your money now.
They actually pay back. There's actually a debt to that they actually owe for campaign money. Yeah, there's a separation there.
Okay.
A lot of them actually go into severe debt trying to run for president.
I see.
But I make way more money doing what I do now than I ever would working for the State Department. Just put it that way. The people that I knew that worked for the State Department as career civil servants, they didn't make a bad living, but you're living in Washington, D.C., putting up with awful human beings, all trying to get to the top, putting up with awful weather, and putting up with all this shit, and, you know, you're taking home $70K, you know?
I mean, outside of the snow, how bad is the weather in D.C.?
Well, it's either really hot or really fucking cold.
Really?
Yeah. It gets muggy in the summer, like it's Florida or some shit.
Oh wow!
You're right there on the Potomac and all that. The area of State Department is called Foggy Bottom because it's like this low level thing where all of the heat and fog gets trapped in there, and it's just muggy, bro.
Wow.
So to go through all that, and at the end of the day, in some small way, you can make a difference. You can help people above you make the right decisions and those kind of things. I kind of like money, and I like freedom, and I like good weather. And I can't do those things from Arizona, and I like to golf year round. You know, and from there, government is very much a 9-to-5 style job.
Yeah.
You know, and working in IT in the new world of the workspace, that's all archaic shit. You know. You don't have to work 9 to 5. You don't always have to be available. You can have time for yourself. And there's a freedom to that I don't ever want to let go of. You know what I mean? And so, in some sense, when I first started getting into this realm after my master's degree, I thought to myself, like, did I waste my time in school? Like, was that all a waste to just study something that I'm never going to work on? But no, the fact that I have a master's degree is why I have an advanced position at the company I do now, even if it's not in the same industry. They don't care.
Yeah.
They care I have a master's degree and I have experience in the field and I can do my job. And there's a lot of things I learned along the way that just helped me be a good manager, be a good team leader, things that college teaches you outside of the actual curriculum itself. So at first, I was kind of always disappointed in myself. I also was in a job only making like $45,000 a year, thinking like I got a master's degree and I'm not even working in the same field. I stuck with it long enough to get the position I'm in now, where there's no way in hell if I had stuck with government I'd ever be making as much money as I do now, or how much money I could potentially be making in 10 years. You know. So
in the vein of like enjoying life and just
there's
living for happiness and what have you.
Yes.
This is a hard right turn with music, and the fact that we're both musicians and we've watched music evolve maybe in not the greatest ways in the last like decade or so.
Yeah.
What within maybe the last 5 years has been new music that you found that just lit you up? That you're like, oh, this band is amazing. This is like, I don't know, maybe even my new Tom DeLonge, my new Blink, whatever. Have you heard anything that's just blown your head off?
It's hard, bro. Last 5 years, not really. Now, I do like the New Angels and stuff, but it's not anything I wouldn't be expecting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not blowing me away. It's just more great shit from somebody I already know is great.
Mm-hmm.
What I miss is between probably 2005 to 2011. There wasn't a weekend you didn't catch me at a local show, either watching or playing, or being active in the indie radio scene with the KWSS and those guys.
Mm-hmm.
I was so plugged in to new music, to new stuff, to new things, and since I've removed myself from the music industry, it's like whatever's on the radio, but now I just listen to podcasts, you know what I mean? I'm so old, I'm a podcast guy.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Podcast guy.
I do. I'm a fan of them.
I'm a fan of that, yeah.
And,
do you like podcasts?
I'm a procurer of podcasts. Yeah, I'm one of them. But that being said, even throughout the day at work and stuff, like I'll listen to a podcast, and then I probably got to listen to a good half an hour of music just to sort of like cleanse the palate, so I can then go in and listen to like another set of conversations, because at some point I'll just like zone out of what two people are saying, and then I'm like, whoa. I pushed play on this because I care, but I'm just a little burnt out because that's all I've been doing is listening to people talk for the last 4 hours. So based on that, like I do keep a pretty heavy foot in music, and frankly I've got a playlist with a bunch of 90s stuff like Bush and Soundgarden and all this great stuff, but I have come across things in the last few years, and it's not even necessarily stuff that came out in the last 5 years, but just stuff that was kind of hidden from view that I've only now found, like Greek Fire, this band that the guitar player and backup singer of Story of the Year started, and it's just like arena rock, but with like this insane singer, because he's a really great singer, and it's great music, and that has just got my adrenaline going. Or like Australia has like a weirdly strong rock scene. There's this band called Stand Atlantic that basically like took where Paramore left off with Brand New Eyes, that album with like Careful and anyway, some great music on there. Paramore like went in this whole like kind of pop, I don't know, like synth technologic, kind of like what Coldplay did direction. But this band Stand Atlantic like stays with that kind of Riot era Paramore and runs with it, and it's really great. Or like the Dead Love is like Silverchair but a little cleaner and better produced. Like he's got this really gritty voice, but the songs are almost Nirvana-ish in the sense that they're really simple, but the melodies and the hooks are really smart, and the lyrics are really good. So like I'm finding things out there that I'm like, wow, rock's not dead, and music can still make me feel like it made me feel when I was 16.
And that's what I'm missing, man, because now when I want to get into my mode, my music mode, I just want to sing along with something these days, you know? It almost feels like it's too much energy to try to go find new shit. Like, it used to almost be like it was part of my day, was new music, and now it's almost like, do I have time? You know? Maybe it's just getting older.
Weirdly, like, Spotify playlists are helpful, but you don't pick like the mainest stream one. Like type in something super specific, like 2010 alternative hard rock. Make somebody who actually took the time to make a playlist like that give you a very deep-seated reference and like 80 examples of it. And as you're listening to it, Spotify has the wonderful advantage of having like, where if you just like a song and you go over to like where all your playlists and stuff are, there's one that literally just says liked songs. So if you enjoy a song and you liked it, it bookmarks it.
That's cool.
And then like if you've done that for, months at a time and you've got like 100 songs on your liked playlist, go back and re-listen to them. And if you still think it's great, what I've started to do is I will find the album that song came off of and then listen to it front to back to see if the band is album good or if I just caught a good track of theirs. And that's how I found like the Dead Love, where I enjoyed a song and then I put on that album, which is called like something about unicorns going extinct or something like that. It's really good, and I've listened to it multiple times since then. And I'm in this phase where I'm kind of like, I don't know, Facebook just did this whole like album challenge thing that a lot of musicians got sucked into, and you just post without any explanation the album cover of stuff that's impacted you. And it was really fun, but I think what it really was is a lot of musicians just going back through their own story of falling in love with music and telling you start to finish how that worked. So I don't know that I discovered any new music through that. I was just reminded that, like, Less Than Jake's Anthem is great, or I don't know, whatever. And so I think one of the things that Spotify's getting right is I think they've shaped the way that people listen to music, in the sense that they built a brand around curating music in a way that people like you and me that realize that the internet is a ridiculous black hole and there's just way too much crap on it. It's oversaturated. Spotify's becoming the filter, where it's like, we'll tell you through these playlists who's actually relevant in their genre, who's working hard, who's, even if they're not necessarily signed to a label, like we have like algorithms and things where we can tell who's listening to what, and so we'll push the cream to the surface. So I don't know, it might help you.
Yeah, I gotta check it out, man.
Because Apple Music is not doing that, from what I understand. They're just, I think they're proud of like the extent of their library. Like, Apple Music has everything because it's fucking iTunes. So they're just like subscribe to me and you can literally listen to everything. But
anything you want. Like, because Brittany got on that, and then I started going on her phone, like liking all of my favorite albums from all the time. Like, you're gonna listen to this and this and this, and that's so fucking cool. But what do you think about like album covers now? Like, what happened to the album cover? Like, think about like Green Day's Dookie and how intense that album cover was. You could sit there, smoke a joint, and get lost in that thing for hours.
Yeah.
And it's like they I don't know, and after the 90s, like, people stopped caring about the album cover. They just stream it, here's the music. Like, the album used to be like the storyline. You bust out that booklet, you read the lyrics, man. You'd see like what the fucking
that's all gone,
doing. See like the behind the scenes pictures in the back end of the booklet. Where is all that anymore?
You know what I'm curious about, and I didn't even have the thought until you just said it, but I wonder if specifically somebody like Spotify, who's trying to be like a trendsetter, would have the balls to do this. All of the albums, like in the past, that had a booklet and had multiple pages and lyric sheets and like producer credits and all that stuff, if they would have the balls to go in and like scan all of that shit and provide it on all of their content that had it, so that if you happen to see like Nevermind or I don't know, just Bush's 16 Stone, whatever albums would have had that thing. I wonder if kids who are discovering music and they're starting to discover how great 90s rock was, and I think it's kind of having a interesting resurgence, if they noticed then that back then it was more than just, you know, the picture of the album cover, I wonder if that would inspire artists like you and me, or nowadays artists, to go a little farther, like to give more information. Let's actually, even though they don't have a physical CD anymore, we can still do the internal book cover thing. And I think some, like, I don't know, John Mayer, when he released Battle Studies, there was an iTunes like extended version of it where there was an extra song. It was a cover of I'm on Fire by Bruce Springsteen. Fucking great cover. And there was this whole like making of video of the music video for Who Says, which is super cool. And if I remember right, there was even an interview, like a 20 some odd minute interview where someone just had him talk about some shit, and it was all included in like the extended version that you could get, like the Apple Plus edition or whatever the fuck it was. But I don't know that I see a lot of artists leaning into that, lean into additional content.
Right. Because at the end of the day, it's like, for them, are there people going to get anything out of it? Like, why am I putting my extra effort into designing this awesome thing for you?
And mostly because like today's audiences are just
want to hear it.
They're programmed for singles.
Yeah.
They're programmed for just quick. Even like there was this dude I like weirdly happened through. I went on this first date with this chick, and we ended up at a Ghost Main show at the Van Buren. Okay. He's like this techno rap artist, like this industrial, like there's heavy guitars, there's techno music in the back. It's really intense. But the thing that surprised me the most about it is that his songs are 2 to 2.5 minutes long. And I was like, does this work?
Right.
Are kids so messed up in the sense
That's
that they listen to like the first verse and the first chorus of a song and then they'll just skip to the next thing? That this guy is like, fuck it, I'll play into that.
Right.
I'll just make the song only as long as their attention. It both surprised and interested me, but also scared the shit out of me. Being like an alternative rock musician who makes 4-minute songs.
Right.
Because that's what I'm used to. That's what I come from.
You're trying to tell a story, man.
And albums, yes.
Yeah.
Although I do have a single that's coming out, so feel free to hate on me for saying this, I'm always going to lean toward trying to make a full-length album.
Oh,
That to me is the ideal way to put out music. Put it out in bulk, and to your point, conceptualize it. The album ought to have some sort of a theme, or ought to have some sort of, like, the collection of songs to maybe tell a story about that era in your life, and so even the way they're listed, lined up in the album, like, tells a story. Like, all of that's...
Because especially being older artists like we are, having done this a couple times, it's nostalgic to go back to an old album and be like, man, I remember being in the studio for that.
Yeah.
I remember the banter. I remember what we were thinking when we were writing that song.
Yeah.
And I would like to be able to share that in like a booklet with people who want to go back and look at it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to read it. Nobody wants to say it. So why do I gotta put it up?
Yeah. That's our torture.
But yeah, man, it is. It's and I think that's probably why, you know, I lost a little bit of my steam with the music industry and stuff too. It's all the little stuff, all the stuff that I loved about music when I was growing up. The reason I wanted to pick up a guitar is stuff that people just don't care about anymore.
Yeah.
Now, is it still fulfilling to write a great song that it's a single that everyone will love and come to a show? Absolutely, it is. But it's all the extra stuff that I miss about music.
Yeah. Same. We are coming up on the end of this trip. This has been a fun day. This has been like a blast.
We gotta do this more often. Now we gotta go play ourselves, dude, instead of watching people.
On that note, in the vein of the whole Gotham City comics gigs on the weekends, anytime you want to come and like play a set, I'm there for 2 hours, and it's fun to just have somebody take up the other hour or half an hour or something. Like, it would be great to have you. I know people would enjoy it, and I think it would give you space to like
Do something again.
play again and feel that feeling again, and decide if maybe you want to start like
I dig that, man.
writing songs or recording or doing something again.
Hell yeah.
You should do it.
When do you play? I know, is it every week?
As it stands right now, it's every Saturday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Every now and again, like the show at the end of the month at Marquee is on a Saturday. It's on February 29th, so that night I won't be able to do it. I don't know, sometimes things come up, so I try to keep social media abreast when I'm not going to be there, but yes, almost every Saturday.
Yeah, and let me know about your Marquee thing, man. I'm going to go to that.
Okay, I'll send you a digital flyer.
Yes.
Those things. Can you believe that? I don't have a paper flyer to hand you anymore. Like, it's all just on smartphones. I mean, a part of me enjoys it. It's a nice way to organize information, but at the same time, I also forget shit so much quicker and more permanently than I used to. Because I'm so confident of the fact that the information's in my phone that it's not important to me enough to remember that it's in my phone, and then I completely don't go to the thing, or I completely forget about whatever it was, because something about our connections to it's almost like what Dave Ramsey will talk about like spending cash money. He's like, part of why the American relation to finances is so messed up is when banks started doing debit cards, and then debit cards like turned into credit cards or vice versa, whichever one came first. The act of giving somebody money, like losing an actual physical thing, went away, and now all we have to do is swipe this little pretty magic card and we get the thing that we want, and we don't
psychologically
recognize the money that's left our bank account. We don't feel it, which is why we're overspending, because we don't have a visceral physical relationship to our money. And it's like recently I've actually started kind of going back to cash a bit, just to see if I can reset my relationship to money a bit.
Just the other day, we dropped like $328 on groceries, you know what I mean? And it's one of those just like...
For the month?
For like 2 weeks, bro.
Oh, wow.
It's fucking crazy.
Don't get it.
But you know, we're also vegetarians. We eat a lot of fresh produce constantly. And trying to go back and always trying to restock and stuff. But literally, if I had to sit there and hand that lady 328 actual dollars from my hand, I would be looking at my wife like, this is a lot of money. This is a lot of money. I bought a fucking guitar for this when I was 18. And and now I just can eat for the next week. Yes. So that's actually true, man, because you just don't feel it as much when you're swiping as you are handing it over.
Dave's a smart guy. I don't buy into all of his economic politics, but every now and again I'm like, okay, you're right.
You know, before my wife and I got together, she had just gotten out of her divorce, and she was trying to get herself back on her feet financially because he was in the military. He, made money. She didn't even have to work for a good portion of the time they were married. Oh wow! So now when they got off, she's like, I got to work full time. I got to do all this. I got to pay my own bills, and it's all on me. And the one thing that she started listening to was Dave Ramsey. Is it this one? Oh, I take it right on that.
Yeah, it's Southern, and then over to Somerset. Yeah. And no, you don't get to know where I live.
Right. And she was able to do things like pay off her Chevy Equinox in like a year and a half. Nice. And but she's like, I did was eat beans and rice for a year, But it works, man. If you're willing to suffer a little bit to get yourself back on track. It works if you work it. That's right. Yeah. I'm just not willing to go down that road. No, not me either. Just not. Like it makes sense.
I've tiptoed into it with the whole live on cash thing, I think it is different. I think I do, even just at a fast food restaurant. Like if I get out my wallet and I look through what's in there and I look at the menu, I might order lighter just because I know what's in my wallet. Yeah, something about seeing it and not just a number on your smartphone screen where you just check your bank balance and you're like, oh, I'm good. And then you get to the restaurant and you're like, yeah, let's put steak in that burrito. Like you just get a little more gluttonous. I think having cash does. Or even at the movie theater. Like I'll pay the student, discount version of the ticket price, and then I'll go up to the counter and be like, okay, I might get a candy, or I might get the kids meal where it like gives me a small soda and whatever, because I know I'm handing, and I'm just to hand over $20 and get nothing back is like, for 2 hours for a movie? You're silly.
It makes you think about it more. The newest one now that I love, convenience-wise and security-wise, is Apple Pay. Right, with your phone, you do that because now when now they don't have my credit card. Now when whatever place gets hacked and all your information gets taken, your credit card isn't one of them. I love that idea. But man, is it easy just walk into stores? And I'll blow my afternoon going from store to store just tapping my phone, and all of a sudden I've spent $400 and tapped my phone too many times.
My bad. It's up past the CRV, or it is at the CRV, that house right there. Justin, you're such a stud, dude.
You, man.
Love your
It has been a fucking pleasure.
Can't even wait.
Let's do it again. I'm gonna have you over for dinner.
Cool.
So you can meet the wife and
Love
the kid,
that.
and then let's go golfing, man.
Hell yes.
It's fun. And I'm definitely gonna hit you up on the music, dude.
Cool.
Give me a
Love
hug,
it.
brother.
Love you, bro.
Love you, dude.
Oh, weird hug.
Weird hug.
Love it.
Good day, man.
See you, man.
Thanks for inviting me, man.
Yeah.